Over the past few years, I've started to notice that many of the games that I've played and enjoyed the most aren't finished. Enshrouded, Valheim, Path of Exile 2, Slay the Spire 2, Witchfire. These are just a few examples of games that have been near the top of my personal favorites list, I've sunk hundreds of hours into, and yet technically none of these games are complete. There's also another trend that I've noticed anytime I cover one of these, or really any game in early access, that more or less boils down to the same sentiment, which is this game looks great, if only it wasn't early access. Does the game look great or doesn't it? Now, I'm not saying that I don't understand why some people have an aversion to early access games. People don't want to waste time on a game that isn't finished, or they want to wait until it's in its final iteration to see when its content complete. And then there's also the concern of people not wanting to spend money on a game that may never end up getting finished, or buy something that doesn't end up being successful and then ends up getting abandoned in the process. These are at least a few of the reasons why some people don't like and or don't want to spend money on early access games, which I totally and completely understand. However, there's a handful of reasons why I personally am really happy early access exists, and that some developers, like the ones of the games mentioned above, have chosen to use it. There are cons for sure, and there are plenty of examples we can point to of studios who do early access poorly, but ultimately I think that early access is a great thing, and that without it I may have never gotten to play what turned out to be some of my all-time favorite games. And today I want to talk a little bit about the reasons why. So you know that little blurb on the Steam store page that comes with every early access game? The disclaimer that lists the reasons for why they chose to launch into early access? Almost without fail, every one of these will say something along the lines of, we want to make the game as good as possible. We want to involve the community in shaping its future. We see the value in blah, 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 blah. No, I'm pretty confident that a majority of these blurbs should just be replaced with a single line, we're running out of money. Not to say that those other things and all of the listed things aren't also true, but it's pretty clear that funding the game's development is a large motivating factor for many early access launches. And of course it is. Have you seen the state of the games industry in recent years? Projects are getting canceled and studios are being shut down left and right. Why? Well, of course, it's money. You guys knew the answer, right? The answer is money. As gamers, we want talented developers to make products that they're passionate about and that we enjoy playing. The problem is, in order to make these games, they need to survive. They need food, they need shelter, maybe some extra money for some comfort. And for those things, yeah, they need money, right? Developers need to be paid money so that they can survive long enough to make the games that we enjoy playing. I know, crazy, right? And where does this money come from? Well, it comes from other people with money. And it's those people who decide which studios and what games to fund or not to fund, or whether they even invest in gaming at all. A couple years back, you remember NFTs seemed like a really cool place for people to put their money. And then in most recent years, the AI industry has been all the rage. And so a lot of people's money has been going towards that. Just like all of the apps on our phones are competing with each other for our time and attention, there are countless companies, products, and technologies out there competing for the investors' money, including the people who make the games that we like to play. They're also saying, hey, we could use some money, we're gonna make this thing, and it'll make you back your money and then some. So if you're a developer and investors decide that the game that you're making isn't worth spending any more money on, well, we get Amazon canceling the Lord of the Rings MMO, that Last of Us multiplayer game being canceled by Sony, NetEase halting development on the Warhammer MMO, EA canceled that Star Wars FPS along with a new Titanfall game that Respawn was working on. The list of canceled projects and shut down studios has been ever growing, especially over the course of the past decade. Hey, just this week, Microsoft announced that they are selling off 4 Xbox studios. Now, fortunately, they at least seem to have not taken all of the IP and canceled in development projects in the process of this move. And as someone who has been eagerly anticipating State of Decay 3, this is a great relief. I am super happy that Undead Labs can continue working on the game. We'll see if they still hit their 2027 projected window. This is going to shake things up a bit, presumably. But you know what? Even Microsoft, they have canceled plenty of projects in recent years. Not too long ago, they axed that sci-fi third-person looter shooter that ZeniMax Online Studios was working on. They also canceled Project Odyssey, that survival game that was coming out of Blizzard. And I haven't forgotten about Everwild, what was to be the next game from Sea of Thieves developer Rare. All of these and numerous other canceled projects are games that we will never see and never get the chance to play. And that sucks because I'm fairly certain at least some of them probably would have been really freaking good. And like, had they released into early access, there are probably some big success stories that could have happened in another timeline, but simply never will in our reality. You simply never know which of these games would have been amazing, and I'm sure some of them would have. And you know, often when I see this point brought up, the response that I see is, but the game wasn't good and that's why they canceled it. Okay, says who, right? Who says the game wasn't good? Well, it's the money people, it's the investors, it's the CEOs, the people in charge of financing these projects and the ones who ultimately decide to end up canceling them. Do you think any of them play games actively? Or even have any real idea of what a good game is? Like, I don't know, dude. I'm willing to bet that there were some amazing games in here, in this list of games and the longer list of games that have been canceled in development that we will never get the chance to play but could have been good. But because the people in charge of the money, they didn't think it was good, they got canceled. And I just don't know that I trust their judgment about what makes a good game. In fact, I'm willing to bet a vast majority of the people making the decisions about these games getting canceled barely even ever play games, if at all. Maybe they played games when they were a kid, or maybe they pick up the yearly COD or FIFA. Maybe some of them played Red Dead Redemption 2, but again, the people who are saying these games aren't worth funding anymore, I just don't know that I trust their judgment about whether or not that's true. Or maybe their judgment's perfect, but I will say this, I would definitely have preferred that every game that got canceled mid-development instead got tossed into early access and just put through a trial by fire, okay? Bring it to market. If the game sucks, you'll shut it down like you plan to anyways. If the game is great or even just is good enough and has good bones to be promising, hey, boom, there you go. You rolled the dice and you might get a cash infusion, which would then build some investor confidence to continue seeing the project through until its final 1.0 version. But yeah, the bottom line here is that if I'm given the chance between a game being shut down because the studio making it is running out of money, or because the investors funding it don't want to fund it any further, or given an early access release where the game is buggy and unfinished and maybe still years away from release, 100% of the time, I will prefer the early access launch of the game to never getting the chance to play it at all and never really giving the game a chance. Because yeah, look, without early access, there's a real possibility we would have never played and got to enjoy games like Enshrouded, Path of Exile, Warframe, Witchfire, and so on. I mean, heck, Baldur's Gate 3 was an early access game, and that thing turned out to be a game of the year. So there you go. Now, and I'm not trying to sit here and pretend that every game that comes into early access is a success story. Of course not. Plenty fail. Most of them do in fact fail, but that's better odds than 100% of the games that never come out and get canceled mid-development. They all fail anyways, right? But really, I mean, the financing of these games and that whole aspect is only one of the reasons why I'm in support of early access. The other one kind of more relates to, like, why do we play games in the first place, right? I mean, seriously, why do you play games? What's the point? What's the purpose? Why are we spending tens, hundreds, thousands of hours of our life gaming? You know, some of the reasons I play games, I like to experience new and interesting worlds, get to meet some unique characters, maybe get some cool storylines. That's not my highest priority, as some of you know, or really, I really like engaging in mechanically stimulating mechanics. And all those things could be simply put, I play games for fun and I play games to be entertained. So when it comes to some of the common complaints that I see about early access games and people not wanting to play early access games or not wanting to support them for, you know, they don't want to waste their time if the game's not finished. They want to wait until content complete, or they're nervous about spending money on a game that may end up being abandoned and never finishing development. My thought on these really boils down to, you know, if a game delivers me hours of entertainment that seem fair for the price that I paid, I literally do not care what version number it is. It could be 1.0, it could be 0.1. I don't give a crap. I really don't. A fun time is a fun time, pretty plain and simple. Like, a game doesn't need to be complete for me to enjoy it. For the same reason, I can go on a day hike without having to spend months hiking the entire mountain range. Like, it was still worth it. It's still valuable. It was still entertainment. It was still fun. Games are the same way for me. I don't have to just play the completed version of a game to get entertainment, enjoyment, and have fun in the process. And then also, you've got entire genres of games that are never complete. Like one of my favorites, MMORPGs. These games get perpetually updated. If I waited for WoW to be finished, I would still be waiting, and I would have missed out on what was easily one of my all-time favorite games. But lastly, and I think probably most importantly of all, is you never know what day is gonna be your last. Not to get too philosophical or morbid here in this video game video, but it's true. You know, if a game is playable today, and I think it looks fun, I wanna play it. I may very well not be around when an early access launch gets finished down the road. Like, I don't have any terminal illness that I know of yet, right? I'm not actively at death's door, but at the same time, we're always, every moment, potentially there. It can happen at any time, right? You never know when the clock's gonna stop ticking, as they say. And one of these days will be the last one that we wake up, that we get to see the sun, breathe the fresh air, enjoy eating, enjoy spending time with people we love, and enjoy playing games. And as it relates to the topic of early access, if a game looks like something I'll enjoy and it seems fair for the price, then I want to play it, whether it's finished or not. Cause yeah, I'm happy to be here now and enjoying the stuff that is available for today, for however many todays I've got left. And that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know below what you think. Take it easy, guys. Cheers.